just to orient you guys, just to see kind of what this whole setup looks like. It looks a lot more complicated when you see it in pieces, but when you see it all together, it's really 1, 2, 3, 4. Not that big of a deal. All right, so to prep for taking out the old master cylinder and the brake pedal assembly, we can start on the outside of the car. Also, admire the little oil spill. So first thing that we're going to do is take off the wheel, take off my favorite panel, and you're going to make sure you have access to your master cylinder, which is right there. All right. Next, we walk into the car. I apologize for the chiming. Garage grunt. So this panel here, you're gonna remove. It just basically pops down. It has like a little metal tab and a plastic tab. And here's what the brake pedal assembly looks like. So there's a clip. There's a clip that needs to be removed from here. So this guy can pop off. You will spin this guy, I believe it's counterclockwise, a little bit and then push him back out. Then take off this, or to take out this brake pedal assembly, there are 3 13mm nuts that are in here. I will show you guys after I take the brake pedal out, or the clutch pedal out. I'll show you where they're located just so you have an idea. This is for the installation of the TIC Performance master cylinder. So they do offer a, you're gonna have to do some drilling. That's the reason you're taking apart the clutch pedal assembly. So they do offer a template, and basically you're gonna have to drill some holes so these Allen bolts here can hold the new master cylinder onto the I guess the firewall into the brake pedal assembly. So gonna go ahead and get started, and I'll show you guys what it looks like outside of the car. All right, so here we go. Gonna go ahead and show you guys how to drill the holes so the master cylinder can actually bolt up to your clutch pedal assembly. The first thing you want to do is you want to remove this clutch pedal switch. So it will be installed this way onto your clutch pedal. Go ahead and depress this middle tab here and then slide it up towards these 2 holes and pull it out, set it aside. Wipe this down with alcohol so the sticky can actually stick to it. The instructions call for 3/8 drill bit. I am actually using a step drill bit. And whenever you drill metal, just a friendly reminder, always drill on low so you don't burn out the drill bit. Go ahead and all right, so what I did there was I just basically poked through the top of the hole here and then put the tip through the locator hole and then just lay the sticker on there and just kind of moved it around. So all right, so the 3/8 step is like right here, so I'm just going to go ahead and make the first hole here. Hopefully this is easier. All right. That is perfect. All right, so it looks like we are almost finished here. Let's double check. Perfect. All right, quick tip. If you ever do drill metal, the first thing you want to do is clean up all these little shavings, because they literally get everywhere. They get stuck to your clothes, and as you're crawling underneath the car, they start poking you and whatnot. So make sure you clean that up immediately. So let's take a, I'm gonna go ahead and clean this up really quick and then put this thing together so you guys can see what this looks like. All right, so everything's cleaned up. Let's go ahead and take a look at this. Holes made. All right, so we're gonna have to clean these up a little bit, but let's just make sure that the holes actually line up. I did drill the holes out just a little bit bigger, not much. There's maybe 0.5 millimeter of play in there. Let's just take a look here. All right, so the holes almost line up. I'm off by about 0.5 millimeter on this one, so I'm just going to go ahead and take off 0.5 millimeter down that way, and we should be good to go. All right, so here is the finished product. I haven't tightened it down yet, but basically this is what it's going to look like. You're gonna have to do a little bit of more drilling, at least taking off, I don't know, I was off by like 0.5 millimeter. It is pretty tight in there. Barely have any room for these bolts. The other side is even tighter. If you guys can see that or not, but there's like, it barely clears this wall. So anyway, the instructions call for these bolts to be tightened down and then put this entire assembly back in. One last piece that you guys should be aware of is this guy here. So the old master cylinder, this guy here was not adjustable, so it just went across and it had this little eye that would go over this. This guy here is adjustable, so once you put everything together, you're going to then screw this guy on there. So screw it on there, and I believe the directions call for screwing it all the way down, and then you can adjust it from there, and then you just put it back onto this guy, and this clip goes back on there. So you'll need that clip. This spring does not go back in. All right, I just want to give you guys a quick overview just so you guys understand what you're going to be doing when you go to bleed the clutch line. So here's your master cylinder. Once you install it, the firewall is here. So this is going to be in the fender well of your car. This part here is going to come off. This guy here is going to get put on, clamped down. This guy gets attached to this, and then this line gets fed down and attached to your slave cylinder. Off your old setup, you're going to remove this hose with this reservoir. I'm gonna remove my remove the old fluid, clean it out, brake cleaner, and then put brand new brake fluid or clutch fluid in there. But ultimately, you want to take this guy, this line, it's going to get attached to that guy there, and then before we make this attachment, we are going to gravity bleed it first, and I'll show you guys how to do that. But just to orient you guys, just to see kind of what this whole setup looks like. It looks a lot more complicated when you see it in pieces, but when you see it all together, it's really 1, 2, 3, 4. not that big of a deal. So I'll make this video very, very quick since the chiming is on. To get the clutch in, you are going to have to, because now the cylinder is attached to the clutch assembly, you are going to have to remove this little switch, and this thing sits up here like this. So there's two 10mm bolts that are behind this little white thing. Grab your pedal assembly, basically push the slave cylinder through the hole, line it up with this screw down here, that guy there. Tighten the nut there and get the nut that's up there so everything lines up for you. Let me see if I can get it. Where is it? So this guy here. So get that one with your hand. That one's not too bad. Tighten that one. Well, first of all, before you tighten anything, make sure that this screw is in this hole and the other two screws are in the other two holes. Then tighten this guy. Tighten this guy here. And the only other one that I was able to get was this guy over here. This guy right here, I physically can't get my hand in there to get it. So to get this guy here, you basically have to hold the nut between your fingers like this and then slide it all the way up there. So push the clutch pedal towards you, push the slave or the master cylinder bolt this way, and then basically slide your hand all the way up and then catch it, and then the rest you can do with the wrench. So now it's time to put this guy back on, this guy back on here, and then the rest of the interior here. Alright, so now that we come over to the wheel well section, first thing we're going to do is we are going to remove this plug. You guys can see that's on top of this master cylinder, and we are going to go ahead and install the white plastic cap here. So I already did a rough alignment on where that hose is going to come down from the reservoir, and it comes down right about through here. So basically I'm going to install it. I am going to keep it loose, and then once I align everything up, I'm going to go ahead and tighten it. Alright, so here's what the master cylinder looks like when the plastic piece is put on there. Just a heads up, you're going to struggle mightily with this white piece because it's plastic. It's not necessarily very flexible. So you do have to snap it in over like a rib on this on the master cylinder. So a couple of things that I would do as a tip: put a little bit of oil on the inside of this guy, the white piece, just so it can slide easier. The other part that I would do is warm this plastic up so it's a little more pliable. Don't put it in a microwave, but like maybe leave it next to like a light, a shop light or something, just to get it warm so it does have a little bit of give. It was pretty difficult to snap in. You will feel it when it snaps in. It does go over a rib. You don't have to put this clamp on right away. You can actually put it on after. When you put the clamp on, you're going to want the rib that it snaps over to be between these two metal bands. Go ahead and tighten it down, and I don't know, don't use force, but you'll feel when it basically stops tightening. Before you do that, angle this nozzle upwards, kind of towards the engine bay. Just make sure you have some space on this side to put the tube. So this is the tube. This guy here is the tube from the reservoir. As you can see, it'll be kind of a straight shot into this master cylinder. If you have this angled kind of towards the camera, what'll happen is you'll be able to put this on, but you'll create a loop like this where air can get into the system. So you want basically a straight shot from the reservoir onto this. And then when you go to put this tube onto here, once again, use a little bit of lube. And then you can also warm up this black tube here as well, so it's a little more pliable. So I'll go ahead and do that now, put it together, hook this guy up. One thing to note, if you had to take or loosen this ground right here to take off the factory master cylinder, this is probably a good time now to clean off that ground surface, mating surface, and make sure you tighten it down so you don't forget. Another tip is you buy these udders, go ahead and clean those out as well. They basically, you collapse them and then you pull them out and then clean them out and then put them back in. There are holes up there. I took one out just so you guys can see this. So, all right, when you're putting this, one last thing, when you're putting this white thing on, make sure you support the master cylinder and you kind of push down with your thumbs. It's tough to get in here. You're gonna have to use both hands. Don't push from the top down because there's nothing supporting this master cylinder other than those two bolts that are on the pedal assembly. Okay, so here's the finished product. As you can see here, the hose has been connected to the white plastic piece. When you cut that hose to make it a little bit smaller, it's super tight on that white piece. So what I ended up doing was I took the reservoir back off and then I stretched that hose out a little bit. I basically fitted it over the handle of one of my pliers just to get it to have a little bit of give. Put it back on. It went on there fairly tight. I used a zip tie to hold it on there just in case. Remember, that's just gravity fed. There's no pressure there. And then for the ground, I went ahead and cleaned it up, tightened it, and then after that I went ahead and I installed this guy here. So nothing to it, just basically tighten this down and thread it right by the ground up against the frame, and it will sit right at the bottom here. And the next step is going to be to gravity bleed this thing. So what we're going to do is add some DO.3 or .4 fluid, whatever it calls for, I don't remember. And then we're basically going to depress this little guy in here, this white piece, and let it leak out till we have a steady stream. I think the instructions call for 20 to 30 seconds. So here we are, everything is connected on the car. What I've done is I put the rear end in and I connected the back knuckle assembly to the car. And what the plan is, without connecting the calipers and the brake lines and all that stuff, or the e-brake line and then the wiring, I'm basically going to bleed or fill up the reservoir for the clutch, bleed the master or slave cylinder, and I'm going to try to adjust the clutch with the car up in the air, and it's just basically going to be mounting a wheel in here, putting it in gear, and then as the clutch gets depressed, I'll figure out when the actual wheel starts spinning, just to make sure that the clutch can engage and disengage. I'll do a rough setup there. The way I'm going to bleed the bleed the slave cylinder is I'm going to take the remote bleeder, and I'm basically just going to funnel it back into the actual reservoir while somebody's pumping the clutch. The other thing to also note at this time is there's still an adjustment if you did get the Tick Performance master cylinder. There is an adjustment that can still happen on that guy right there. So it doesn't have to be perfect, but we do have to make sure that we get at least close. That way when I put everything together, there's no surprises.